You know, for how many episodes I've made of this series, I can't believe it's taken me this long to have an entry from an Atlus game. It's not like I don't play those games. I've actually played a ton of Atlus games, but I just never really got around to including them despite there being multiple options that would fit this series. It's also been a while since I did a viewer-requested episode, so it's time we finally dive on down the pipeline of Atlus games. This time, we dive into Shin Megami Tensei 4, with my honestly most requested video outside of maybe the Queen of Hatred from Library of Ruina. So, yeah. Now, I actually quite enjoyed this game. The setting is awesome, the story is pretty good, and the customization options are great. For the most part, I would consider SMT4 to be on the easier end of the series, though. In fact, I actually think it's easier than Metaphor Fantasio and most Etrian Odyssey games. But it's not a game that's going to roll over and let you win either. You're going to have to put in some effort from time to time. That being said, having your game's hardest boss fight before you even get to see the world map was certainly a choice, because look at this crap. The game begins with us flying through the air and hearing a bunch of weird voices because I guess we forgot to take our meds or something.
Many awaken from their slumber within the earth's soil.
We find ourselves waking up in a burning city, and a young man tells us about his plans to change the world for the better before it all fades to white. We must have been smoking that Mikado brand ganja or something, because we find ourselves in a desert with some dude saying we're going to make a world where peace lasts forever before getting warped out yet again. And after a surprisingly long intro, the opening credits come to a close with SMT4's very ominous soundtrack playing as we get to see two men, our main hero and protagonist Flynn, and his friend Isakar overlooking Mikado Castle. Isakar is your best friend who will live a long and prosperous life and totally won't be huffing that demon ganja in the next 5 or so hours. After running around town for a little while, we're required to have our qualifications checked at the main plaza. I know it's going to succeed because we're the protagonist, but just imagine if it didn't work and we had to go back home. I'm sure there's probably some indie game out there like that's a farming simulator or some crap, but I don't really care enough to look. Of course we pass because we're the protagonist, but what is cool is we're actually given a very brief glimpse of the game's two final bosses, which is a neat detail you only really notice on a second playthrough. I don't know, I just find that kind of stuff neat when games do it. After getting drafted, the day goes by in a blur and we wake up meeting a man named Walter. Walter's a pretty cool guy, and it's good to have someone around that you can talk with. He leads us out to the statue of King Aquila, where we get to meet our other major characters. There's our leader Hope, who trains all of us. We have the aforementioned Walter, known for saying hoy a lot, Jonathan, the up-and-up man with the best intentions in the world's longest Jufro, Isabeau, the girl of the group, and Navarre, the one who's trying to get fired so he can collect unemployment benefits, and he hates us and Walter for being casualties, the low-class proletariats of the Kingdom of Mikado, while the luxuriers are the high-class nobility. Thankfully, Jonathan doesn't carry that sort of douchebag CEO mindset, and Isabeau just sort of sits there. Yeah, she has a personality, but we're not allowed to know about it yet. We're given a stipend that is not nearly enough money to buy anything other than a single healing item, and we're told, make it work, jackass. And finally, we can delve on down into Naraku, where we learn the basics of exploring, battle, and negotiations to get more party members. And I will say this right now, when you level up, you get some HP and MP, then you need to decide where else to allocate 5 stat points, and what you need to know, above all else, is that magic is king in SMT4. Focusing on leveling up that and occasionally throw some points towards agility so you don't miss it in opportune times. That should be how every level up goes if you want to be optimal. This isn't to say strength builds can't work, but they're just not quite as useful in most cases. Though, you can still easily make it work, it's perfectly viable, you'll get through the story. The only truly wrong option is to be indecisive and spread your stats as thin as you can, because that leads to you as a jack of no trades and master of getting your ass kicked. After tutorializing, our first boss fight is against the Wild Hunt, which will ambush us and always hit us with Dream Fist first for a flat 90 damage. Don't worry too much even if you do die, because for some reason, your protagonist dying doesn't mean an instant game over in SMT4 like it does in most other Megaten games. But once he attacks you, simply cast Sand 3 times and maybe one more attack and you'll kill him in a single turn. When it's done, we pass initiation and Jonathan invites the gang up to the roof to look at the scenery of the nation.
Sorry, but I'll be retiring to my room.
What a press.
When you decide it's time to go up to see the roof, the trio of friends look up at the nation and their friendship will most definitely last to the end of the game and when the credits roll, I promise.
Oh. 'Tis an unbroken view of the kingdom from here. I feel like a king.
Jonathan talks about how he's taken aback by demons being in a Shin Megami Tensei game, first time, and we talk about the hope that this piece will last forever. I give it like 90 minutes tops. From there, we simply have to do some mandatory side quests until the game progresses the plot, with the most notable thing being a mini-boss fight with Orthrus, who dies to one turn of Bufu spam. Apologies for the squares, I had to record this through Azahar to have both screens display, and it has slightly off textures on occasion as a result. It doesn't affect the gameplay though, and it doesn't affect our main subject of the video, so I didn't worry about it too much. We then hear how Navarre has gone missing in Naraku. Oh no! Now, us being not complete shitbags decide maybe we should try and save his nepo baby ass from probable death and or serious injury. That goodwill ends up biting us in the ass as we now start getting attacked by cloaked figures that sick demons on us. The second goon seems tougher, but thankfully we have Jonathan Isabeau come to our aid to get our first fight alongside party members. They can't be controlled in battle, but they are still helpful to have around, and Walter will join shortly after the fight's over. This mechanic will in no way have unforeseen and very dire consequences in the future.
I gather you intended to prey on the weak, but you have badly miscalculated.
As it turns out, yeah, Navarre staged this to either kill us or beat the crap out of us because he's a complete and total jackass. Jonathan comes along because he's got a good heart, and Isabeau comes along to make sure we don't get stuck with a manslaughter charge. Unfortunately, things get out of whack as it turns out a domain has emerged, which can only mean a powerful demon is nearby.
Yes, let's all express our surprise to see demons inside a domain.
We finally find where Navarre and one of the other samurais were being held captive, and there's a powerful demon who wants to eat him right next to us, so we've got ourselves a boss fight on our hands here.
Oh, if I drink this much blood, I'll get chubby. Oh well. I can always start dieting tomorrow.
Alraune is theoretically tougher as the first real boss of the game, but with her being a plant, it doesn't take much of a guess to figure out she's weak against fire, and a little bit of preparation means that she shouldn't last too long. But she's not a free win. She'll likely last long enough to get poison on your entire team, and maybe kill a party member or two, but probably not too long after that. On the bright side, when it's done, we get to enjoy Navarre's crash out.
Let me make one point clear. This is in no wise my fault. The masters told me to do it. I hadn't a choice.
What is this treachery? It was you who came to us with a scheme to frighten the impertinent prentices and...
Hold your tongue! I am the victim here, and I have been one since the day the gauntlet chose me to be a samurai. If only I hadn't been chosen. Mine would have been a carefree life.
Navarre?
Ah, yes. Those were the days. I was father and mother's delight.
That's the last you really see of Navarre. I know it's not the case, but I like to imagine they offered Liam O'Brien $20 and a sandwich to record a few minutes of dialogue for him. We don't really see Navarre again in this game, and it's revealed in the sequel that he died off-screen drowning in a river when he was trying to either jerk off or sexually assault a naked woman. And yes, I know that sounds very crude, but that's what happens, and this is an M-rated game, so...
No, I can see that Navarre is special. I think I'll be returning home.
After that eventful battle, we get a day off to have breakfast with the boys.
We invited Isabeau, but she demurred and said, "I'd rather spend it alone."
We get to enjoy our casual day off, and I forgot to record the scene with Isakar at the lake. It ultimately comes to a close when we go back to the roof, and Isabeau finally gets a chance to develop a personality.
You're reading? Isabeau, don't tell me you're a devotee of that literature too.
I'm sorry, but what? What I was reading is something called manga.
Oh, this is fascinating. I've never seen anything like it. It's a story told through both words and pictures.
The one I'm reading currently takes place in a fictional kingdom known as France.
So I know the story's supposed to be something like Joan of Arc, but I'm curious if there's an actual particular manga she's referencing here, because I was looking, but the closest thing I could find was the Fate series, and I know for sure that wasn't it. Personally, I've been reading Clevitus recently. I think it's an excellent manga, and I highly recommend checking it out. I will warn you, it is very graphic, however. Unfortunately, nothing good can last in the world of Megaton, as our home village of Kichigeorgi is on fire, and luckily for us, Hope is actually a good boss and decides we can come along, but we'll need to be careful and follow his orders, which are to rescue as many civilians as we can. Kichigeorgi Forest has slightly tougher enemies, with our main objective of finding survivors scattered in the forest, and I do highly recommend snagging the Spriggan here now while you can. Trust me, it'll be very helpful later. Of course, we also have a boss fight against Strix. Actually, calling Strix a boss fight is a bit generous. Really, you can just handle her like you handle any other home invader. Sure, they're dangerous, but if you put enough bullets or voltage through them, they tend to stop moving. After we take out Strix, the man we saved tells us how some teens had this quirky club meeting that went horribly wrong, as suddenly they started becoming enraged after reading this mysterious literature. Me and my friends recommend some random-ass Chinese story for the 4th month in a row. Finally, we run into Isakar, who's acting totally normal, and after he didn't pass the job interview, he starts talking about a cultural revolution and starting a class war. I ask him what his plans are to replace the current system we have, at which point he just gets angry, crashes out, and decides to murder me. You know what? Never mind that ganja, this dude straight up just took a bunch of bath salts. So now we have our boss fight against Isakar, which is really easy and unremarkable, as he just spends a majority of it blaming other people for his problems. Look, I know the job market ain't the greatest right now, but that's why you need to include references, apply in person, and get yourself a side hustle. Jokes aside, this battle is more plot than challenge. Its main purpose is to introduce you to dialogue in the middle of boss fights, being able to influence battles in your favor if your head isn't shoved all the way up your ass. Ultimately, though, there's no saving Isakar, and our best option is to give him a quick mercy kill.
It hurts. The bleeding won't stop. I'm begging you, my friend. And my pain, won't you put an end to me? With the samurai's hands. Your hands.
You mean to do it? He suffered enough already.
Jonathan, what you suggest is no kindness.
What?
'Tis only an excuse to avert your gaze from the painful reality. You ought follow his example and act with clear intent.
Thank you.
So we just had to fight and kill our childhood friend we've known since we were a kid. They were turned into a demon right before our eyes, and our parents were also killed in all of the chaos with our town burning to the ground.
Looks like the quest is going well.
Oh, fuck you, Burrows. After all that drama ends, we're given a new mission from Abbot Hugo and Sister Gabby to begin exploring the depths of Naraku, where we'll finally meet the subject of today's video. And I forgot to record that scene, damn it. We will see some slightly harder enemies in the depths, but there's nothing really scary. The real threat comes when we reach a large, totally not suspicious doorway, and we meet the subject of today's video, the Minotaur.
Now then, where is this legendary demon? Perhaps it's wasted away, lo, these many years.
For humans to have the gall to step into the Hall of the Minotaur.
What in blazes?
Everyone, look!
Over 1,500 years have passed since I formed the pact with my master. You are either truly skilled or fools indeed to ignore his warning. I will dine on your blood that wishes to mingle with the unclean. samurai. Put on a good show.
Well, hey, he may have more presentation than the other fights so far and more intense music, but I'm sure this fight can't possibly be that bad, right? Yeah, so about that. Don't be too surprised if you find yourself dead and face to face with Charon the Ferryman. Lucky for us, he says he's overbooked at the moment, and he offers us a way to rejoin the living because he's sick of working overtime. Relatable. He mentions how some Maka or play coins will make it easier on him because money makes the world and the afterlife go round. That being said, he's willing to put it on a tab if need be, so you're not screwed if you run out of money, at least not now. I would describe Shin Megami Tensei 4 as a moderately tough game, probably like a 6.5 out of 10, but it's extremely forgiving as there's basically little to no runbacks to super challenging stuff, so even when you do die, you're able to get your reps in. And it's willing to let you bash your head against the wall over and over again without repeating a bunch of unnecessary crap. I would still recommend saving often, however, because we don't want to go bankrupt, as this can get expensive. But okay, what exactly makes Minotaur so difficult? Well, let's pull out the numbers. We've only fought 2 real boss fights so far, the Wild Hunt does not count. Those boss fights were Araune and Isakar. Araune has 870 HP and a massive weakness to fire, right after you got the ability to obtain Pele, and she doesn't resist dark, so she can be instantly killed by Mudo, and you also have some Mudo access at that point in the game as well. Isakar has no weakness and resists both light and dark, but only has 564 HP to his name, so the only thing keeping him alive for more than 2 turns is the cutscene dialogue. After that, we get to Minotaur, who has a whopping 2,706 HP, nullifies fire, light, and darkness, and has a whopping 36 in every stat, which means unless you've been min-maxing one particular stat, hopefully magic, he'll be outclassing you in every single aspect, and with agility that high, he's going to be landing his hits unless some major outside interference takes place, and he resists every common status effect in the game. But he's not the only threat, as you have your own teammates being picked at random, and Walter can use physical attacks and fire spells. Remember how I said Minotaur is immune to fire? Guess whose AI doesn't check for that?
How's this?
I wish I could say he just wastes his turn, but it's even worse, as SMT4 has a smirking mechanic, and that means when smirking, your next attack is guaranteed to land, guaranteed to crit, and you're basically guaranteed to dodge anything until the smirk ends. Smirks can happen when striking an enemy's weakness or getting a random critical hit, but are far more likely to trigger when nullifying an attack, which can often lead to you getting killed. After dealing enough damage, he'll start talking about King Aquila, who he made a pact with 1500 years ago. This whole thing sounds pretty interesting, and I sure hope it doesn't get retconned in a crappy sequel that reads like it was written by a Reddit atheist. Oh, and read what he says carefully and respond in turn, because picking the wrong dialogue option can do things like give his attack 101% accuracy, which will be a big problem as we are about to see. Now, the boss is bulky, but defenses only mean so much, as it's his attacks that kill you. And on paper, it's pretty simple. He only has a total of 5 moves and only 3 attacks, all of which are basic physical attacks. The problem is, it doesn't matter if he's simple or not. He's essentially a Tenpai player in Yu-Gi-Oh!, where it doesn't matter if you immediately know what his strategy is, he's still going to hit you for 37,000 damage and kill you in a single turn. Not to mention, the only physical attacks thing isn't the downside you may think it is, when the only thing up to this point in the game that even has a physical resistance is Spriggan, whose only offensive skill is Agi, which doesn't work on Minotaur, and he can do a basic attack for combat, so he'll be a damage sponge and nothing else. But let's talk about those moves for a bit, because hoo boy, they are quite silly. First up, his basic physical attack, which isn't anything crazy, but he can just whip them out a modestly powerful attack that hits whoever he wants with close to perfect accuracy, unless your either evasion has been buffed or his accuracy has been debuffed. And even if you buff your evasion, it's still a pretty high chance to hit. Now his next skill isn't an attack but a debuff known as Warcry, which instantly lowers the attack and defense of your entire party, and he loves using this on turn 1. You can try to counteract the debuff, but outside of some dialogue choices, your buffs, only real option is Apsaras, able to use Rakukaja, and Naga, able to use Tarukaja to buff your attack. So you can at least offset one or the other, but don't bother trying to offset both. It's not a great idea. Now, you can also come in here with evasion buffs like Sukukaja, which can be helpful, but agility is kind of luck-based, so it's not a thing I'm going to tell you to rely upon in this sort of situation. Then there's Onikagura, which does medium physical damage to a single foe, and has a high crit rate but low accuracy to offset it. This game has a few tiers to its damage, with low being tier 1, medium being tier 2, high being tier 3, and severe being tier 4. I feel like there's another one I'm forgetting about. Either way, Onikagura hits like a truck and will likely one-shot anyone other than Spriggan if it hits, since its crit rate is also very high. Sounds balanced, but remember this boss has ways of giving himself 101% accuracy on his attacks, so he won't miss, and there's no way to negate physical damage this early on in the game without some insane levels of grinding or other dubious methods. And when he crits you, the pain keeps on coming due to this game's press turn system. See, in Shin Megami Tensei, and Metaphor ReFantasio for that matter, the press turn system means that each side has a set number of actions. In the case of Minotaur, he has 3 actions he can perform in a turn, and using an attack will consume the press turn. Except, should he either strike a weakness or land a critical hit, then you will be given a blinking press turn instead, which can be consumed for a bonus action on top of, well, whoever got that blinking press turn. Think of this like having half a turn as a bonus, but it rounds up. So, should an attack miss or be negated on the other hand, 2 press turns will be lost instead, and while it doesn't come up here, if an attack is either reflected or absorbed, then all press turns will be used up, and your entire turn immediately ends in most games. Or in some games, if it's more merciful, it'll be 4 of them are used up. So the idea is that Onikagura is kind of a high-risk, high-reward attack from him. Except with SMT4 smirking system, he has ways to guarantee he doesn't miss, and guarantee his attacks deal critical damage, giving him even more press turns, so it's not uncommon for him to just keep attacking you. That gag near the start of the video, with him taking out my entire party, wasn't a perfect storm gag. It's a fairly common occurrence, and we still have 2 more moves to cover. Charge is a basic 2.5 times damage multiplier on the next attack, but the real kicker is Labrys Strike, which hits random targets 2 to 3 times, but basically that means if there's only 1 target left, they're going to get hit twice. If there's 2 or more, then 3 attacks will be connecting. And Labrys Strike deals mega damage. You don't even get access to damage tiers that high, while this dude is throwing them out before we can even see an overworld map, and unlike Onikagura, it doesn't have decreased accuracy, so while it could theoretically miss you, it's not super likely under most circumstances. I really hope you like Charon because you're going to be seeing him quite a bit. So the question arises, how in the ever-loving hell are we supposed to beat this guy? So there's actually a lot of things we can do to get ready, with the most obvious being, well, it's an RPG, grind levels. But enemies don't give that much experience, so a lot of the level grind is going to come from side quests. But most side quests found at the bar have probably already been completed, so the only real options are getting side quests through seemingly RNG from talking with random enemies. What really matters is your party members. We're going to need to be able to use the ice spell Bufu, so that means things like Gremlin, Apsaras, and Angel can be very much worth your time. Additionally, Rakukaja can offset the defense debuff of Warcry, while Naga with something like Tarukaja can offset the offense debuff. You can try to buff yourself beyond that point, but I don't recommend it as much because if you ever get yourself back to neutral, the chances of him using Warcry seem to increase exponentially. At least as far as I can tell. I'm not looking at any data mine information on that. However, speaking of Angel, getting them to level 12 will allow them to evolve into Archangel, skyrocketing their stats and boosting them to level 18 with 265 HP, and that more or less solves the problem right there. but it's going to take a lot of grinding because Angel's only level 3 and barring random side quests from talking to enemies, we've run out of bosses to kill. It can be worthwhile, but I'd more recommend Angel if you want a long-term party member and not just a solution to get past this boss. Now, if you really just want to kill this boss and you don't mind some grinding, then grind to level 15 and you can fuse the Tyrant Demon Morax. And Tyrant Demons are usually the strongest things in the game other than maybe boss monsters, but again, that's grinding entirely too much for my taste. And another option is to do things like farm life stones, because if you do that and you've acquired the DLC, be it through methods legal or dubious, shall we say, you can get plenty of DLC equipment to provide your character some fantastic stat buffs, including over 300 HP, which makes this scary fight kind of a breeze. But I don't think that's a very realistic option either in most cases. So your best bet will fall under having a recently leveled team and have access to Bufu, preferably Spriggan in the party to soak some damage because his physical resistance means that he's not only going to take less damage, but I'm pretty sure it means he can't be crit by physical attacks unless the enemy is smirking. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I think that's how it works. I know that's how it is in some of the other games. Additionally, if you're willing to reset a few times, then you're probably going to want to have Isabeau or Jonathan as your human companion and not even risk it with Walter. I ultimately did beat the fight with Walter, but that was far more because I wanted to do things for comedy. There's also the matter of difficulty settings. Now, at the start, Shin Megami Tensei 4 only has one difficulty to play on, but should you keep repeatedly getting your ass kicked, then Charon's Jailers will give you a new app for your gauntlet that allows you to change the game's difficulty settings whenever you wish. I will not be making use of it for this video, but sometimes needs but. And if you really need to just get past this fight and see the rest of the game, you can always rely on this. And this is only going to work for a single attack, but if you need a tiny bit of burst damage, the Naraku Depths do have a Buffalo Stone hidden, which allows you to hit an enemy for medium ice damage, and medium is tier 2, so that's very good. There's also one last really stupid solution that I like, and I'm going to talk about it. Centaur is actually pretty good to utilize here. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but I have my reasons. I'm not saying go and send in a level 1 Centaur and he's going to win. But we have another mechanic in the game that allows you, the player, to obtain skills, and that mechanic is known as Whispering. This will allow you to learn skills like Bufu for ice, or Dia for healing, Gram Slice for delusional people, but should a Whisper be prompted, even if you don't choose to learn any new skills, then there's the matter of skill upgrades, where should a demon, angel, fairy, or what have you offer to whisper you their skills, and you have some that overlap, then the skill you have will receive a small boost in power noted by a +1 or +2 present on them, and Whispering basically always triggers when a unit learns all of their skills. Centaur joins at level 1 and knows Bufu by default, at which point he will always learn Needle Shot at level 2. That means in the span of just a few battles, you can easily get Bufu to +5 or higher by just having Centaur whisper over and over, and sometimes Needle Shot will mutate into Dia so that can get a boost as well. On top of that, I wouldn't recommend sending out a level 1 Centaur to fight Minotaur, but he's not awful. At level 5 he can fairly reliably tank a hit or two so long as it's not charged up, and he comes naturally knowing Bufu, so while his damage won't be great, he can help exploit the press turn system. And of course, there's always the tried and true strategy.
Look, you just gotta try harder not to suck.
So now to slay this monster, I chose to go with a party of Flynn, Spriggan, Centaur, and Apsaros. I had Walter as my AI party member, which should have prompted a reset, but I decided to keep going for comedy purposes because, hey, I'm running Centaur anyways. If everyone on the team does not have a way to exploit the boss's weakness with, say, Bufu, then what you can try doing is alternating the weakness attacks and other actions as best as you can. For example, Flynn goes and uses Bufu, which gives a blinking press turn, but Spriggan is up next, he can only use attack. But since I have a blinking press turn, Spriggan will use that up instead of a real press turn, and then I still have 3 more full press turns, which I can take advantage of by both Centaur and Apsaros to give me 3 more blinking press turns with Bufu. So that way you can get the most out of your turn. After you've dealt about a quarter of his HP, he'll mention how you have some skill. When he asks if you really think you can win, tell him you're determined to win. as this will allow you to get an attack increase on your main character to offset any Warcry shenanigans. After that, it may be worth having Apsaras go for Rakukaja, or if you have Naga, have them go for Tarukaja if you're not feeling confident and you want to try and burn this boss down or help your survivability. And from there, the loop is actually pretty simple. Just spam Bufu as much as you can. Try to get up to 8 actions per turn. Rakukaja can somewhat offset Warcry's damage. Tarukaja can offset your offense decrease. And if you get a Smirk, all the better. Heal as best you can when needed, and that's where I think Apsaras shines once again, because Media, being a party-wide healing skill, is very, very helpful. When he asks, has he met his match, be careful with the dialogue choice here. I've misread it before and screwed up, and doing so will give him a 101% accuracy on his attacks. Meanwhile, saying the samurai have no limits will lower his accuracy for the rest of the fight, making Oni Kagura comedically inaccurate unless he's smirking, but, never get cocky or otherwise he'll pull it out of nowhere and it'll one-shot you. The third dialogue will trigger when he has less than 1,000 health left. It doesn't have any choices for you, it just signals the fight is near its end. Don't get careless, as Charge is still a very deadly status that he can pull up and then throw out a Labyrinth Strike, but from here, it's really a simple matter of going all out and striking his weakness to pull out a win, assuming you don't miss him at an inopportune time and Walter doesn't hit him with Agi for some reason. Heck, Centaur actually survived multiple turns at 1 HP and 1 MP like an absolute champ and ended up helping me kill the boss.
Forgive me, Akuma. I panicked and you. But perhaps we can entrust the future to them.
And that's going to do it for this video. I genuinely can't believe it's taken me this long to cover an Atlus game in this series. I've played a fair number of them. Heck, Radiant Historia is one of my favorite games of all time. And I do quite like Shin Megami Tensei 4. Just never really got around to covering them for some reason. But hey, it was fun to do another viewer requested episode, and I do plan to cover more videos like this in the future, as well as far more Atlus games, because I can't think of an annoying as hell yellow bird that is already coming to mind. Oh boy. That being said, I will be taking a short break from worst difficulty spikes, not too long mind you, probably just a week or two. The thing is, with the earlier episodes I recorded most of them around the end of May and scheduled them all out in advance as I was getting ready to move. Since that point, I have moved and mostly gotten settled, but I'm also going on vacation and spending some free time with my family instead of just this. Plus, I also just did a massive video for Grand Blue Fantasy Relink that is over 4 hours long. Check it out if you haven't watched it. I actually am really proud of that one. Think of this like a, season finale, but instead of having to wait a year, you've only got to wait like 1 or 2 weeks. I thank you for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Until then, take care. Well, that was fun. But got a bit of a break, but I wonder what I should do for the next episode anyways. Oh god, no.